Hi guys, so in today's video I wanted to go through something that I had mentioned in not my last video but the video before that, the makeup tutorial, about basically what I was calling like my August detox, which is the whole month I'm not doing a whole bunch of things. I'm implementing new habits, and I kind of wanted to go through what my experience has been, some tips that I have learned, some things that help me stay consistent, just kind of go through my experience with it in general. I feel like this will be helpful for people who want to kind of work on self-improvement. I'm seeing kind of a shift in a lot of the content, at least on YouTube. I haven't been on social media, but even before that, I feel like there's a lot of focus on self-improvement, which, as long as there's a balance, I'm all for, implementing healthy habits and working on yourself in whatever way you feel is necessary, just as long as it's not like go all the time. I think that rest is very important. So for this month's detox, the rules were no smoking or social media, daily stretching, meditating, and journaling, consistency with the gym and my YouTube channel, reading daily or more often, turning my focus more on YouTube, being present and implementing in what I would call stacking positive habits, and then prioritizing self-care and rest. For some of the tips that kind of helped me stick to these things, and also some things that I learned, I kept a to-do list in my planner and then also on my phone, so that while I'm out and about going through my day, I can hold myself accountable, and it makes me feel a lot more accomplished to tick something off the list. I also feel like having something that you physically can check off, it builds that momentum. It's kind of like a snowball effect, so it pushes you to do more. But also in my planner, I now have started school for the semester, so like when I'm looking through my deadlines and just kind of checking where I'm at, especially in school, having that physical planner and being able to write things down, it just helps me stay more organized, because I might not always be on my phone. If I'm spending time studying or something, I also have something in front of me. It's usually when I'm doing schoolwork or I'm studying, I don't have my phone near me, so it just is kind of good to have both, and I feel like that is a good technique for me. Whenever I was craving weed, which was not a lot, surprisingly, honestly, I feel like my mind was a lot clearer. I didn't feel as kind of numb emotionally and physically. I feel like I had a sharper mind. I was able to recall things a lot better. I slept better. Overall, I'm a light sleeper, so it's pretty common for me to wake up throughout the night, but I notice when I wake up in the morning, I'm not as groggy, or it's not like I'm pulling myself out of such a deep sleep. It kind of is still a deep sleep, but refreshing, if that makes sense. Like, I wake up with a clear head. I don't feel like I'm dragging my feet when I get up. But whenever I felt myself craving it, I would do something that I know would get my mind off of it, especially if it was something that I needed to do that day. Like, usually when I would smoke, it was because I was bored or I was procrastinating stuff that I needed to do. So when I was craving it, I would refer to my to-do list, see if there's something that I can be doing that is productive instead. And if not, if my body or my mind needed rest, then go put on a comfort TV show, or go read a book, or go color. Just something that will actually be fulfilling for my body, rather than turning to that. I will kind of get more into that later, because I feel that I wouldn't say my opinion completely changed towards weed, but it has changed a little bit, and I want to make myself clear about it, so I'm going to refer back to that. Another tip that helped me is that I missed the gym if my body was telling me no, whether that was mentally or physically. This month had some rocky moments for me. There were some times where I was really stressed out, and as someone with anxiety, it can kind of be hard to rationalize through those moments and not, make everything seem like the end of the world. And so if I was not in a place where I felt like getting up, or if my body was just so exhausted from being stressed or whatever the case was, if I could tell that I just was not in a place to go and do a workout or whatever. Usually every morning I move my body anyway, so I didn't beat myself up about it, because a part of this month was to also really be present and in tune with my body. And so I wanted to make sure that I was prioritizing that over sticking to a regimen of 2-3 times a week. If I only did once that week, at least I went, you know, or if I didn't go at all. Usually if I am on my period, my body is just not in a place to go and do a workout, so I completely like gave myself the grace and understanding that it's perfectly okay. Kind of tying into that, I was working towards moving away from any feelings of guilt I would normally have for not always being productive and always doing something, and kind of shifting my mindset to a place where I know rest is productive, where I don't feel guilty for resting. I don't feel like I always need to be doing something productive in order for my day to be valuable or to feel like I'm not wasting my time. And understanding that sometimes, even if I didn't do a lot that day, if I had a stressful week or a week that really just took a lot out of me, if I just need a day to decompress, or even a couple days, you know, everyone is different. And me personally, especially if I'm, let's say, going to work multiple times in that week back to back, or interacting with a lot of new people, I will experience burnout. And so I need that time to kind of recharge and come back to myself. So I was not allowing myself to feel guilty about that at all. And if I did, I really dug deep, especially when I was journaling and trying to figure out, why do I tie so much of my worth to my productivity, and why do I only see productivity as me doing something? Why can't rest just be productive? Another thing that helped me stack habits is that once I had 2 or 3 habits that I started to implement at the beginning of the month that became regular for me, let's say something like journaling and stretching every morning, once that became regular and it became a part of my routine, which is usually around the 2-week mark for me, if I was doing it pretty much every day around the same time, after those 2 weeks, I would then add another couple of habits, whether that be to do a face mask once a week or do something new to my hair. You could add, you know, meditating more often or doing shadow work. Just stack things that you have been meaning to do so it's not as overwhelming. I think a lot of the times when we see these self-improvement videos, it's just like a long list of things you can do to improve your life. And it isn't taking account for how unrealistic it is to implement 10+ habits when that's not a part of your routine. It's hard to just kind of do such a abrupt shift. A lot of people are not able to stick to that kind of change. At least for me, especially having ADHD, it's hard to be consistent with habits and remember to do things. So I just did little by little. This was also something that me and my therapist covered. She would tell me that, you know, if you're not feeling the most motivated or you're dreading editing a video, let's say, just do 15 minutes one day, and then there might be another day where you're able to push through and do 30 and then do 40. Sorry, my camera had cut me off. But we basically talked about how, you know, start at 15 minutes and then work your way up to 30, 45, and then an hour. Just doing little by little, because it seems less daunting and it's a lot more attainable to start small with something, no matter what it is. If it's meditating, just do 5 minutes a day and then work your way up to 10 once you feel like you are comfortable with it, or, you know, you feel like you can go longer. And it just, same idea with multiple habits. Instead of just trying to throw all of these habits onto yourself, do a little bit at a time. It's a lot more realistic for most people. Something that I used to struggle with, which is so weird for me to say, but reading. I loved to read when I was younger. It was never an issue for me to finish a 300-page book in a couple hours, 500-page book in a day. I used to love reading. The problem was, as I got older, of course my attention span, because of constant social media use, was rotten. I was not able to focus on reading for long periods of time. I didn't really enjoy reading, and so I kind of wanted to challenge myself to get back into reading, but also to find a way that I can tweak it so that I actually find it fun again. Obviously the focus was an issue, but I feel that not using social media helped my focus a lot. It also helped me have more time. A lot of the time we don't notice that when we're on our phones, so much time passes, and in those moments we could easily be doing something that's so much healthier for our body, mind, you know, whatever. With that eliminated, I had a lot better focus, so it wasn't an issue of me being able to read for long periods. I just was not interested in what I was reading, and the issue was that a lot of my books were educational or self-help books, which I do think I should still read. And if you do have self-help books, I'm not saying abandon them, but the problem is that if you're constantly pushing self-improvement, self-help, those kinds of books on yourself, it kind of spoils the fun of reading. Reading is supposed to be something enjoyable. It does not always have to be a chore. It doesn't always have to be something fundamental or productive. You know, it should be something that you enjoy. I ended up going to my local library and checking out some fantasy books or nonfiction books that sounded interesting to me, and I was so much more entertained by those books, and I found myself really enjoying reading. Moments where I'm like, ooh, I kind of want to go check this social media app, or I kind of just want to, you know, maybe binge watch a show, which is fine here and there, but it's also like not really stimulating to your mind, you know? So I felt like that kind of helped me get back into it, and you just really have to find what you like. I think that a lot of people don't realize there's so many different types of books you can read. They don't have to be super long. They don't have to be a certain genre, whatever you enjoy, audiobooks, whatever. But a lot of people need to read more. It really does a lot for teaching you how to be present, teaching you how to focus. It's just like, it was great for me. I really did like it, and now I feel like that's going to be a regular thing for me because it can easily fill up so much of your time and make the day go by. Branching off of being present, I noticed that being on social media, smoking even, was detaching myself from being present in the moment. And what I mean by that is I'm here, but I'm not mentally here. So a lot of the times I might be sitting here with my boyfriend, but I'm on my phone, so I'm not really present with him. I'm not really enjoying his presence. I'm not really talking to him. We're not having meaningful conversation, which sometimes it is okay to have what therapists have called parallel play, which is, you know, just spending time with a person but separately, if that makes sense. So you're in the same space as another person, but you're each doing your own thing, and that's fine. But to kind of always just resort to my phone in social settings, or when I'm bored, or just as like a reflex, it really messed up the way that I was present, not only in my body but just in my surroundings, just even in my home. That I noticed things outside, things about my neighbors, things about myself, like checking in with my body and noticing, oh, like this is how I feel after I eat this food, or I notice now that I can really take a deep breath, or wow, my mind is so much clearer. Whereas you won't have the time and the space to really notice those things if you're constantly on your phone. Eliminating social media was something that really helped me implement being present, but also I struggle with checking in with my bodily functions. I think this is a part of my ADHD and my autism. I'm not completely sure, but I like would notice that I had to pee. Like, this sounds so random, but like seriously, or that I'm hungry, or that I'm tired. But if I'm glued to my phone and not checking in with my body, I'm not present, I wouldn't even realize that until it became urgent, until I was starving, until I was like running to the bathroom, until I was dying of thirst. Like, I didn't realize, oh my God, I haven't had any water today. All I've done is been on my phone. I've just been all over the place. I haven't had a moment to just be, you know? Stretching every morning, really moving my body, seeing how certain muscles feel, what's tight, what's uncomfortable, really noting how I slept that night and what I can do to sleep better the following night, or what I can do to help a certain part of my body feel better. Just checking in with how my body feels, meditating, checking in with how my mind feels, really helped me practice being present in the moment. I never really understood when people would say, oh, be present, whatever. But just being with yourself, having a moment to yourself, having moments in nature where you're just observing everything around you and you're just being really. Like, you don't have to be doing anything, but that's like the whole beauty of it, is that when you're not in the constant like hustle and bustle of your day and you're not like constantly thinking about something, how do you feel inside? There's a lot of unchecked feelings, repressed feelings that we have that are able to just be pushed down and put on the back burner because of our phones. We are just so distracted. We don't notice things about the people around us, and of course things about ourselves, because we're not checked in. I had a goal to keep my screen time below 4 to 5 hours, and it's been way below that. Without social media, it's been like an hour or two, and I'm so proud to say that, because I really wanted to strictly use my phone for the things I needed. Check my emails, answer phone calls and text messages. That's it. Like, that's really what this should be for. I honestly think I want to extend my social media break because it just has been so peaceful. Obviously, I don't like not knowing about world events, so I feel like I could maybe be more in touch with the news, but I'm very sensitive to what I see in the media, like especially negative stuff, like violent things. So ignorance is bliss. So of course I want to make sure I'm still educated and I'm an informed person, but it does help with, like, you can control what you want to take in, you know, what you want to absorb, because we underestimate how much we absorb when we're just scrolling all day. Like that, you know, constantly negative things, constantly seeing what other people are doing, what milestones they're hitting. You can be happy for others, but it really can put pressure on you subconsciously, internally, to hit these goals and kind of, oh, I wish my life was like this, oh, I wish I had this, or I was doing this at this age. It just leaves too much room for comparison and too many outside opinions and so many other things you would never normally see had it not been for our phones, that it can be unhealthy, and too much of anything is just unhealthy. So I don't know, I think that I might extend that for a little bit, or really keep it to a minimum, because it is just so peaceful, and like my brain is not full of everything that I'm seeing and taking in all day. I did mention being in nature to be more present, but also while you're eating meals or having conversations, not having a distraction, phone, TV, really helps as well. It allows you to kind of pick up on facial expressions, body language, other cues that you normally would never realize, especially eating and really enjoying your food. A lot of people like just chew, swallow, and like that's not good for our digestion and our body, and it could really explain why a lot of us have GI issues. Of course, for others, it's a little deeper than that. Sorry, I had to let my camera cool down, but like I was saying, for others, of course, you know, it's probably deeper than that, but you know, just the little ways that you don't notice that you are not present. We are constantly distracted and our brains are constantly running. So to kind of eliminate that is just so much more peace. Those were the tips of, and kind of some of my takeaways, but this is some of my main takeaways from this detox. I realized that I was using weed as a way to numb, distract, and procrastinate. Moving forward, want to kind of use it as a treat. I know a lot of people that say, oh, you know, I've had a long week, I haven't smoked all week, I'm gonna, you know, smoke a little joint or whatever. I kind of want to use it as that. I don't want it to kind of be something that is a part of my daily routine. I honestly don't think I ever want to go back to smoking every day. I mostly noticed it on my body, not even my mind, but just when I'm meditating, how restricted I feel in my breathing, how much more congested I felt in my chest. And that happened relatively quickly because I was only starting to smoke every day maybe a year ago. So for that to happen in a year, I can only imagine if I continued on that path, where my body would be. I know that smoking regardless is not the greatest for your body, but I think I am allowed to have a vice like every person in this world, and as long as it's in moderation, that I'm okay, you know. I don't think that it's harmful per se. I think the way that you use it can become harmful, and a lot of people are not honest about their dependency on it. And that's fine, that's everyone else's journey. But I think that if you're at a point where you can't eat, sleep, socialize, unwind, have fun, whatever, if you need that as a crutch in any capacity, you probably should take a break. Or if you're at a point where now you're having to smoke more and more and more to either numb a certain feeling, whether that's anxiety, stress, depression, you're needing more of it, you also need to take a step back, because it's going to get to a point where it's not really going to be enough, and you're just going to keep chasing a high. And although weed is not the most harmful drug out there, it is still harmful to be that dependent on it and to be using it that heavily. I was honest with myself, and I realized that I was very dependent on it, and I was using it as kind of like an emotional crutch to kind of just lift me up, and it really didn't do that. It made me feel good in the moment, but afterwards, or even in that moment, if I was feeling sad and I smoked, I would be high but still sad. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if I kind of see a point in being a super like heavy user anymore. I don't know if that would change. I honestly don't think it will, because I really have been enjoying not smoking at all. It really has been great to kind of just be sober, you know, out just with friends, family, whatever, and being able to really like sharply recall stuff, memories, fun times, you know, stuff like that. And also kind of just, if I'm out and about and I'm trying to be present and enjoy, you know, if I'm at a nice place and just enjoy nature or whatever, being able to kind of take all of that in, you know, sharply, and it's like not just kind of a blur. I don't know, just kind of those things that you don't realize when you smoke. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with weed right now. I noticed throughout this month I was not consistent at all with meditating, mostly because I would do everything but that, and then I would kind of say, oh well, I did everything and I just missed that, so it's fine. And I would usually try to do it before bed, but by the time I went to sleep, I was too tired to, you know, try and sit and focus on meditating. And I kind of kept procrastinating it because I have not been consistent, and I knew it was going to be a challenge. But moving forward, I do want to be more serious about implementing that every single day, because in the couple of days that I've been consistent, I've noticed a big decrease in my anxiety. My overall mood is just so much more stable, and I'm just a lot calmer. I didn't realize how much I missed meditating, but just even 10 minutes a day has made such a big difference for me. And it's also just another positive way to fill up your day. So I honestly would definitely be more consistent with that. I also feel that a lot of the racing thoughts or overthinking that I would have was kind of remedied by meditating, because I was taking a moment to recognize those thoughts and kind of like put a thumbtack in it and just save it for later, or, you know, sit with it, take it for what it is, and then return back to my breath and kind of have a complacency or kind of a neutrality with it. Was very helpful for working through those emotions for me. Another takeaway was I realized journaling helped me work through the stages of a lot of emotions that I was feeling, especially anger. As someone with autism, unfortunately, I have a hard time discerning what emotions are what. I know how it feels in my body, but I don't necessarily know what the emotion is. It takes me a long time to kind of process and work through what I'm feeling, why I felt that way, and what does it mean. I kind of have a delayed response when it comes to a lot of that, and I'm like, oh, I was angry, that's why I felt like that. It can make sense to some people if you're just naturally that way, or if you are also autistic, you might relate to that. I know everyone is kind of different when it comes to the spectrum in general and how we all feel things. But I noticed, because I was so consistent with journaling, that was one of the biggest changes I noticed in myself, was pertaining to that. Writing down and kind of venting to my journal as if it were, you know, someone I trusted, or talking to myself and just venting out loud and just kind of just dumping everything that's on my mind, really helped me kind of work through the stages of identifying, processing, you know, moving forward with the emotion, and how to if there's a change that I need to implement or anything like that. It also helped me practice taking a step back or taking a moment and pausing before I reacted on an emotion. Just because I was feeling a certain way in my body doesn't necessarily mean I need to act on it right then and there. It may feel like it's urgent in my body, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be acted on. It doesn't need to be spoken about. It's perfectly okay to say, hey, I need a minute to process this. And I really put that into practice with journaling. I would experience something in my day, whether directly or indirectly, and then once I've had the day to think it over, or the time I've blocked out to journal to think it over and process it, I was putting that into practice in real time. Let's say if I'm having a conversation, a confrontation with my partner, or with someone at work, or just a difficult conversation, or just a daily conversation with anyone, just something that might perplex me or something that requires me to stop and process, just taking that moment and voicing if I need it was something that I struggled with before. And just the act of taking a moment to stop, reflect, and write it, put it in writing, and have like kind of that physical release was very helpful for me, especially when it came to regulating my emotions, which is something I also struggle with. Lastly, I would say I honestly would do something like this, a monthly detox, at least 2 to 3 times a year. I think especially when it comes to substance use or social media, having time where you completely detox from it is so important. Our bodies need to know how to function without any stimulants, without any downers, without any outside distractions, anything that you have to add to your life. Like, our bodies need to know what it's like to completely be sober without anything in our system, a sober mind, a sober body. Our brains need to know what it's like to not constantly be stimulated or distracted all the time. We just need that kind of reset and refresh. It's so important for, you know, our bodily health, our mental health, our focus, our motivation, everything. Like, it just has helped me in so many ways that I did not think it would. Just overall, I feel so much more calm because I'm not so fired up and just dysregulated by seeing thousands of videos on end every single day, one video being sad, one being happy. Like, all of those fluctuations in my emotions are not natural. It's not normal, and our bodies are not used to this. Our bodies are not used to taking constant dopamine hits from clicking on an app 20 plus times a day and just being busy, you know, looking at a screen for so many hours, straining our eyes when we should be just outside looking at sunlight and not a blue light in a tiny screen. And of course, I don't think that being void of those things altogether is technically the answer. I think whatever works best for you, but also just taking that time to fully like purge those things, even if it's just for 2 weeks. I personally think a month is a perfect time for me because it really helps me solidify the habits that I want to implement. But, you know, whatever you feel like is necessary for you to kind of just get back on track. If you feel yourself slipping, you're maybe smoking too much or using your phone too much, and you're like, okay, I have to get my shit together. Taking the month to just, or the week or 2 weeks to just detox from all of those things. And, you know, you won't have any excuse to say, oh, this is why I'm not on track. I would say I definitely recommend it to anyone watching. It has been an extreme help for me, whether you are neurodivergent or you're my age, you're older, you're not feeling motivated, you're constantly feeling stressed and don't know why. You know, just little things, meditating, journaling, just even stretching 5-10 minutes every morning makes such a difference in how your body and your mind feels. Little things that we underestimate, we wouldn't think have much of an impact, but they do. And so even if it's just 1 or 2 things from the rules that I listed that you take from the video, I still would recommend that you try it and see how it works for you. This is what I came up with for this week's video. This month is coming to an end, and I'm still gonna keep some of these habits, of course, but I just wanted to make a video reflecting on it and kind of advise you guys, you know, pro detox. But I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in next week's video.